Okay, hey everyone, let's see who's going to jump on here. I'm Dr. Nancy Stanley, y'all know who I am, and I have a special guest with me today, and we are at a different location. As you can tell, I'm not in my kitchen, I'm not cooking today. I do need to cook when I get home though, because we don't have any food in our refrigerator. But I have a special guest that I met through another friend, and her name is Randi Popp, Dr. Randi Popp. And she drove over here today for us to meet. You know, when you're a provider of health care and you've done it forever and you're kind of making a shift and you want to attract a different audience, you want to help people in a different way, you kind of want to meet up with other people that are doing the same thing, that are kind of going a new direction, other than just mainstream medicine, if you know what I mean. And so Randi and I just kind of meshed when we first started talking. And she came to my Zoom calls that I do with my private clients. And I realized that she had some giftedness, she had some knowledge that needed to get out to the world. So that's really what this is about, is educating you, because as you know, that's what I do. I love to educate people about a better way. And I think you just said something about, what did you just say about lifespan and health span? What did you just say, Randi?
So I was lucky enough to go to the Age Management Medicine Conference 2 weeks ago in Miami. And I've attended this conference before COVID in person, but I have not been there in the last 8 years. And I made up my mind that I was going to go. I needed the energy of a in-person conference, and just realized that most of what I heard is very solid and the same, but about 20% of the information was new and different, which is why I went, to get the cutting edge information. But one thing that they talked about a lot was our goal, I think your goal and my goal, and hopefully everybody's goal, is to have a health span as long as your lifespan, meaning we want to live healthy lifestyles until the end, right? We want to be healthy and productive and have a good quality of life until we die. And that is not really the norm in America. We have a lot of sick people, we have a lot of chronic disease, and a lot of those things can be managed, controlled, deferred with some pretty simple interventions. But we all have to learn about these things, and I think that's where you're doing such a great job. I think you're focused on maybe one age group, and I kind of have another age group, and we overlap in the middle. But I think the message is all women need to know. And I think, you know, I may be working with 30 to 60-year-olds more than you, and you may be working with 60 to 80 or 90-year-olds more than I am, but really we can overlap. And I can help the older ones and you can help the younger ones. It's just a matter of getting the word out and educating.
So how old are you, Randi?
I just turned 60.
She's 60. I'm 69. I'll be 70 this year. And when you get to be, well, I'm older than her, but our age, you begin to think about the end and what is it going to look like. And you see your clients, your patients, and what are they looking at? And that's the question I ask my clients is, I'm 69, what is 79 going to look like? And what is 89 going to look like? And what can I do today to impact that? And what that brings up that we have in common, it's what did you say, the five pillars?
The five pillars that I've been teaching about and helping people with for the past couple of decades. The 5 pillars of health: number 1, nutrition; number 2, movement; number 3, hormone balance; number 4, sleep; and number 5 is stress management. And they all play in together. And those 5 topics make up a program, whether it's getting together every week and talking about this with a new client or getting together every month. You know, I try to meet the client where they are as far as time and finances and work through those topics to let them advocate for themselves. I want to empower the patient.
Yeah.
I want to empower the patient to learn more, offer resources, offer the knowledge that I have, and really offer options.
Yeah.
What I tell my patients, I'm the guide. I am not the boss. You are the boss. You're going to make decisions for your health. I may set several options for you, but the ultimate decision is yours.
Yeah.
And I will be there for support and guidance, and we can move at your pace. But really addressing all 5 of those pillars, in my mind, is the answer to living a long, healthy life.
Yeah.
You know, a health span that equals your lifespan, so that you have quality of life.
So I want to back up a little bit, because really we're here today. You know, I'm a physical therapist. I have a program, 90 days, where I help people lose weight. I help them get stronger. I help them learn about supplements. I help them learn about, generally, about a lot of things. Randi is more specialized in the BHRT, the bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. So I want to preface all of this with the fact that I did not know. I did not know about hormones. I mean, I always was on hormones. For some reason, I'm just going to thank God for it. I never, when I went through menopause, I never quit with the hormones. I was on a synthetic, and then I got on a bioidentical, and I've done it all these years up until now, and have had, you know, minimal issues. I don't have osteoporosis. At this point, at 69, I just went to the memory center. My brain appears to be working well, in spite of what my children and husband sometimes think. I tell them I just choose not to remember things. I mean, you know, I can't keep it all up there. But here's what I do know, is that my mother suffered because she was one of those Premarin women. She had had 7 kids. She didn't go to the doctor after that last kid. There was, you know, no OBGYN visits. She was fine. She went through menopause, so she had no hormones. My mother died at 85 from Alzheimer's, and it was severe. And I have the BRCA2 gene. I believe she probably had the BRCA2 gene. I know 3 of my brothers, I think, have it. And so there were things that I think played into, even though she was healthy, she was not on any medication, her brain quit working. And there are things that I think played a role in that. So I realized what a great injustice was done to millions of women when the hormones were taken away. And in case you don't know it, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it, because most women don't, that I talk to, especially women in their 60 to 80, the Women's Health Initiative study that was done, and the results was falsely reported, and so millions of women were taken off hormones.
And afraid of them
Yeah,
from
afraid
that
of-
day
yeah,
on.
because
right?
they
And-
said that the estrogen caused cancer. And when in reality, estrogen now, the studies are coming out and saying that it actually reduces your risk of death from cancer. So I think the conversation needs to be had. So many women, and if you're one of those, I'm sorry, although I didn't cause it, saw their doctor, whether it was an OBGYN or their general practitioner, when they started going through menopause or, you know, premenopause, perimenopause, whatever, having symptoms, and they were just brushed off as, you're aging, this is just hormonal, and they were given an antidepressant maybe, or just not even valued, or not even made to feel that their issues were real. And if you've been through menopause, you know they're real. All of that is real, and it can be very severe. It can land you in a divorce. It can land you in a mental hospital. It can land you just disconnected and, you know, feeling terrible, gaining weight, 30, 40, 50 pounds, you know. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, because that's really what Randi specializes in, is helping women from 12-year-olds to 80-year-olds understand that it's never too early and it's never too late to start hormones. I've seen women started in their 60s and 70s, especially now with the change in the legal issues about vaginal estrogen and just the benefit of that for issues related to elderly women and all women really. So so that's really what we're going to talk about today. So this isn't just for older women. This is for all women. Now, it's going to be hard for us to cover everything, but I think Randi has enough experience, and just with her recent additional education at this conference about women and aging and all of that. So I just gonna let you start.
Okay, so I'll go back to, again, backing up, how we met was through a, can I use her name?
Yeah.
Okay, Roz. You all probably know Roz, most of you do. In the state of South Carolina, Roz is literally known as the Hormone Lady. She is a licensed social worker and had a wonderful program for miserable women, and she would walk them through like a 12-week program, similar to what we talked about before. At the end of her program, she would offer saliva testing, which you can get on your own. You can pick up a saliva kit, which is how I prefer to measure active hormone, from many compounding pharmacies, and you just pay for it. You use your credit card, you spit in a tube, you mail it off, and you get the results. Well, she would get the results and then have no one to write a prescription if needed. And so she started sending patients to me. And I'm in the typical family practice, solo family practice, where I have 8 minutes with a patient, and I started getting bombarded with these women from a compounding pharmacy wanting bioidentical hormones. And honestly, I didn't know what it was. And so I developed a relationship with Roz and with the compounding pharmacy, and that's how I learned. I also had a set of sisters who came to me completely frustrated that they had waited months to see endocrinology at MUSC to address their thyroid issues, and again, waited, got labs that were incomplete, told the labs were normal, and offered Prozac and sent out the door. So those are the two main things that really opened my eyes. And I just started learning from the compounding pharmacy and from Roz and from my patients. So a lot of my patients, like I said before, I tend to have the younger patients that may have hormone deficiencies that manifest before menopause. For example, PMD, PMS, right? I'm moody, I'm debilitated the week before my period, and I don't know why. Now just younger people coming to me with brain fog, fatigue, skin issues, weight gain, just overall feeling bad, not living well, not having the quality of life that they want. And my first step is always, let's get a hormone assessment, whether that's saliva or blood test. We can do either way. And that's where it starts. And there's almost, my favorite line is, well, what if everything comes back normal? And I say, it won't. It never does. There's always a deficiency. And I used to wonder, why does this 32-year-old have no progesterone? She's 32, she's had 3 healthy pregnancies. You know, she should be at the epitome of her health and her life. And we've started to learn so much more about toxins. And I know that sounds cliche, but we really do live in a toxic environment. And it comes down to really simple things like, what do you eat every day? What are you nourishing your body with? Are you nourishing your body? Are you choosing the right foods? Are you providing your body with the right hydration and micronutrients? And then it goes a little bit beyond that too. You know, what are we eating? What are we drinking? What do we put on our bodies? What are we breathing? We sleep in a plastic mattress. We drive plastic cars. We have plastic water bottles. I mean, the microplastics, that's just the most obvious example of environmental toxins, but basically we're just surrounded by toxins, and we have to nourish our body to detoxify. We have to keep our liver healthy. We have to sweat. We have to do all of those things to eliminate the toxins. And people just don't know this. We don't talk about the basics that much anymore. And having been on the other side, you know, you have an 8-minute conversation with somebody, you write a prescription, and they're out the door. And with my functional medicine certification that I'm pursuing, that's the opposite of what we want to do. We want to take time with the patient, and we want to think about what is the root cause.
The root cause. So what you're seeing here is a difference in traditional medicine, which is looking for, let's have a medication that's going to treat the symptoms, like diabetes, let's take insulin, instead of looking at what caused this, as opposed to let's get things right, and then maybe we don't need a medication.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's where really the second message that I took home again from the conference that I've always do and always implement with my patients is the empowerment and the be your own advocate. You have to find the right medical team for you. And sometimes I tell my people, don't get rid of your PCP and your insurance card, right? Pull that insurance card out. If you have a GYN or a primary care physician that's willing to collaborate and will order labs, by all means, we will use it. But you get what you pay for and you get what you want. So sometimes we have to pay money for a saliva test because as of now, that's not covered on an insurance, but it's the best way to test hormones, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so what I've tried to do with my practice is be accessible and affordable, right? There's nothing worse, and I've been on the other side. I've been on the other side with my daughter when she was debilitated 2 years ago, and we were desperate. We were so desperate, we went to a functional medicine doctor in Jacksonville, and if she had laid out a $3,000 program, we would have fought over whose credit card to put it on.
Yeah.
And she didn't. And it was a horrible experience, and we ended up collaborating with a naturopathic physician that I know in South Carolina, thank God. But my daughter pulled her card out, right, when she had to. She was her own advocate and paid for the certain tests that we found out what was wrong, and we were able to get her back her quality of life. So it's a team of medical professionals, right? The physical therapist, the nutritionist, the classic traditional medicine where you can use the insurance, and then the functional medicine provider that's going to think a little bit outside the box and offer some other testing and keep going and keep trying to find that root cause instead of just putting you on an antidepressant or some other medication that makes you feel better, but down the line, it's not going to make you healthier and it's not going to give you answers.
I think, you know, we took some notes and talked about this before we got on here, like what were the things we want to address? These are the things we see in our patients, but you know, getting the appropriate labs. I see this all the time. I have clients come, you know, they want to join my program to lose weight, and I'll say, well, I'll ask them about different things, and they'll go, well, I don't know. They don't really have a clue about what their lab work, because here's what the doctor has said. Oh, your labs are good. And they may
normal.
be, they're normal. So I had written down normal versus optimal. So talk about that a little bit, Randi.
So I talk about this with every new client, and there was actually an entire hour-long lecture entitled, "Do You Want to Be Normal?" in this conference. So really the best example is one of the patients I had the day after I got back from the conference, and it was a young woman. She's 46. She's been battling fatigue, weight gain, hair loss, just overall feeling terrible. And she said to me, I uploaded my labs and they're all normal. And I said, oh, really? And I said, oh, good, let's look at those. And so we pulled up this decent panel of labs that she'd done somewhere, I can't remember where, but the ferritin level and the TSH were definitely in the normal range, but in my opinion, absolutely suboptimal. So the thyroid gland is not working in her favor in any way. It's hypothyroidism, basically. It's sluggish. It's not representing a healthy thyroid that is going to help with metabolism and energy. And so that was one of the things that we talked about. I don't think she had a T3 or a T4 drawn, which again, you have to fight for a T3. You literally, even with specialists, you have to fight to get a T3. So a lot of my patients will just go to like any lab test now, or even LabQuest or request and just walk in and buy labs, just like you do in a grocery store. You say, I want a TSH, I want a T3, and I want a T4, and here's my money. And that is going to be invaluable to have the entire profile instead of just one number. And then we looked at another one of her micronutrients, and it was like 0.7 into the normal range, and the range was huge. And I could see it on her face over the Zoom. She was just like, you got to be kidding me. And I said, it happens all the time. This happens all the time. Normal labs are a risk factor for chronic disease, just like other normal things in our country. Normal American diet, normal activity level, normal vitamin D, normal hormone levels. Absolutely a risk factor for chronic disease. But you're going to be told they're normal. And you're going to be offered something else or told, oh, you need to get more exercise, or you're just stressed out, take a break from work for a while. That's not always the case, right? If you don't have your hormones all on board, I joke around and say, we need every hormone working in our favor. Progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, cortisol. Cortisol's a huge one. Thyroid. They all got to be optimal, not normal, not low, because you're going to feel the same way your hormones are. And so we want to optimize all of those things. And so, yes, appropriate lab work, appropriate interpretation, and then coming together as a team, you and me, the provider and the patient and the rest of the team, and deciding what is best for you. Where do you want to start, right? We can move through this journey over 6 months, 2 years, 6 years. It doesn't matter to me. It's up to you financially. It's up to your time. It's up to your energy level. What are we going to address, and how are we going to restore your quality of life and your health?
Yeah. And, my personal experience with hormones was I had been on bioidentical hormones for years, but somehow or other, I had gotten too much estrogen. I had done the little clicker thing, and I was doing 6 clicks. And when Rosalind saw my hormone, when I did the saliva test, so here's what Rosalind says, and I love this. She's like, and let me see if I can say it right. When you do a saliva test, compared to a blood test, it's like with the blood test, you know how many UPS trucks you have. With the saliva test, you know how many packages are on the truck.
And the one I had, one I heard, and I learned this, it's like your financial profile, right? Your blood levels are the whole financial profile.
Yeah.
The saliva is when you go to the debit
and try to
pull cash out.
There you go.
That's what you have. So I think both of those are really good.
If you're checking your saliva, they are available to you.
Yeah.
If you're checking your blood, it could be bound up in protein molecules or all kinds of things. Right. So it's not necessarily the most accurate. Okay, so that's one place you can start, and then so my estrogen level was way high. Well, I had 10 pounds I couldn't lose. I mean, like many of you, I've heard it before, whatever I did, it didn't matter. And as soon as I adjusted that estrogen and got my estrogen back to normal, the 10 pounds came off. It took, a couple of months, but I had been battling it for a year, probably 2 years. So you just never know what's lurking under the surface that a good physician, a good practitioner will address it, and get to the root of it.
And that's why I like to, when I have a new hormone patient some people have not even heard of a bioidentical hormone, which we can talk about also. Depending on where they are, I really prefer to have a monthly check-in with my new patients, just to see what's good, what's bad, what's changing, what's better. Keep a little journal. Let's do monthly check-ins for 4 to 6 months, and then we can space it out a little bit. But that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Had you, been able to vocalize that, or have been offered the saliva test sooner, you can pick up those maybe imbalances that still linger. Or sometimes what I find is, as patients take the hormone and the body gets restored, it doesn't need as much, and so you can back off a little bit, or you end up in excess.
Yeah.
And so it's just, again, communication, right?
Yeah.
Communication with the client and making sure that things are moving favorably, especially in that first 6 months that you're working together.
Yeah.
So I do think that's an important topic, the
Yeah,
bioidentical.
go ahead.
Let's just make sure.
Yeah.
So a bioidentical hormone, You don't hear about it on TV. You're probably not going to see an ad in your magazine for bioidentical hormone replacement. A bioidentical hormone is made in a compounding pharmacy by a certified compounding pharmacist. So they go and get trained, and they have a little lab in the back of their pharmacy where they actually make the hormones. They can make other things too, but for me it's usually hormones what I'm ordering. And so the molecules that they make are the exact same chemical structure as the hormones in our body. So the big pharmaceutical companies can't buy those and patent them and sell them and make money. And that's why you don't hear any commercials on the TV. And the drug reps don't come in selling bioidentical hormones.
And they're not covered by insurance, so it is something you're going to have to put out cash for.
Yes.
There are some hormones you can get that are covered, right?
So that's one thing I learned at the conference, which was kind of exciting for me, because I don't like finances to be an obstacle, and a lot of the speakers really endorse the estradiol patch because it's covered by insurance, it's just estradiol, and it's a steady state.
Okay.
Right? They like that steady state of a patch.
Okay.
So I thought that was a good take home. And again, I try to keep my fees low enough. I don't upcharge. A lot of people will upcharge for the testing. They'll charge an extra $40 for giving you a saliva test or a GI comprehensive test or a food sensitivity. They'll tack on $10, $15. I don't do that because I want you to have the money to use at the compounding pharmacy.
Right.
I usually tell people that the hormones are between $30 and $50 a month per hormone. I know you get a better deal. And sometimes you can combine two in a cream eventually.
Yeah.
But I had a patient that came to me last week and she had 5 in one cream. And she wanted to drop one of them. She's like, I feel like I'm kind of wired. I think I need to drop my testosterone. And I said, well, you're stuck. I mean, they're all 5 together. So the first year is a lot of trial and error, looking at the results, getting a program together, and then every month checking in, check that journal. How's the energy? How's the sleep? How are the hot flashes? How's the libido? How's your husband? Right?
Yeah.
Nothing better than a husband saying, oh, thank you for giving me back my wife.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And vice versa. I see men too. But moving through the first couple of months together to make sure that, the money's going in the right direction and everything is moving favorably for both parties.
Because ultimately, we want you to have quality life, and certainly don't want hormones to be a reason why you don't, albeit there are many other things that interfere with your health and your vitality. And like she said, toxins, toxic foods, I call it poison. So many women are eating so many foods that are poison that their body just can't perform, and just this morning I was on the phone with a lady and I said, you wouldn't put dollar gas in your car. You just wouldn't, because it would sputter. And most people that I see are sputtering. When you go in Walmart or you go in the grocery store, you see people kind of puttering around and their body is just not performing like it could if they fueled it properly. So part of that fuel, of course, is hormones, but it's also other things, exercise. So you listed, you said that a few minutes ago.
But it's funny because actually in my functional medicine module last couple of months, we were doing the Krebs cycle, which, wow, I'm like, really? We're going to talk about this biochemistry again? But remember, the Krebs cycle, you kick out what, 28 or 32 ATP? Every little step in that cycle depends on something else. Magnesium, B12. But if you're lacking that, you're going to kick out 4. No wonder you're tired, right? Fatigue is such a huge issue.
Yeah.
I mean, across the board, doesn't matter how old the patient is, most people will come in with fatigue. And if you're not providing basic nutrition to your body to make energy, you're not going to feel well. And you're not going to perform well. Yeah. And sometimes it comes literally down to nutrition, exercise, sleep, right?
Well, I think personally, just my experience, I've been doing this 10 years, you've been doing this a long time too, is that I do a shotgun approach, okay? It's not like one thing is going to make you healthy. For me, I have to work on my sleep. I have to tell myself in the bed at 10 o'clock. Because if I'm in the bed at 11, I'm going to wake up at 5:30 or 6. So I haven't gotten enough sleep. You need at least 7 hours, 8 hours is better of good sleep for your body to heal. God made us that way. And that's where our brain's able to heal, our body's able to heal. And if you're not getting enough sleep, then you're starting off behind the 8 ball. It's kind of what I say. But then you've also got to get your good nutrition. You've got to get your hydration. I recently, just in the last 2 years, started taking creatine, which I'm amazed at how my mental clarity has improved since I've gone from 5 grams to 10 grams, and also taking magnesium. I wasn't taking magnesium. I was taking it, but more or less for constipation. Now I'm taking, some different kinds of magnesium, and I just feel more energy. I don't have that slump after lunch anymore. And literally, if I had not been at work after lunch, I'm going to take a 15-minute nap. And I didn't want to do that. I felt like I'd gotten enough sleep the night before, but it was just, I needed to improve my nutrition. And then, of course, getting sunshine. We need sunshine. Some of the best sunshine in the world that you can get is going out and watching the sunrise. I go every morning that I can. I go stand in my driveway with my coffee in my hand, and as the sun is rising, it's so much good for your circadian rhythm to watch it rise. That first 15 minutes, you can look directly at it. That's the only time you can look directly at the sun, but there's so much that you can take into your body just in that morning. And then during the day, getting 10 to 15 minutes, you can get 15,000 IUs of vitamin D from the sun if your arms and legs are exposed in 15 minutes. So you think about that. You go to the doctor and he gives you 400 units or 400 IUs or maybe 1,000 IUs of vitamin D. And I'm like, well, God gives us 15,000 in 15 minutes. So how would that be enough? So you can get it from the sun. You don't have to, well, at least you can from April to November, so you don't really have to take those supplements if you can get out in the sun. But, walking, moving, building your muscle. Your muscle is your best defense against disease.
Heart,
really
brain, every muscle.
All of that.
Yeah.
All those muscles. Yeah. And you have to, for a muscle to grow, you have to stress it. So I tell my physical therapy clients, I'm like, you've come to me with a back problem, a shoulder problem, a knee problem, a hip problem, all these problems. But guess what supports all of those joints? What supports your spine? Your muscles. And as we age, after 70, it's like you fall off a cliff if you're not building muscle. And so all of these are things, I know this may be a little overwhelming, thinking about, oh my gosh, she's wanting me to do all these things. But if you just start implementing, slowly but surely, but really I think the hormone thing is such a bedrock issue. And so let's talk about how they can access you.
Okay.
And if not you, then who? Because I know you have a license to.
Right.
So go ahead and
I am licensed in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. And that means I can consult with anybody. But if I'm writing a prescription, the patient has to be in one of those 4 states during our consult. You don't have to live here. You can be driving through. You can be visiting. You can be on vacation. As long as your feet are in one of those 4 states, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, then I can do whatever.
And it's all virtual.
It's virtual, yes. I mean, if the patient happens to be local, if it works out, that's fine. We may end up doing some events, and I've done some events before where I have 6 or 7 patients gather in one place. That's fine. But most of it's done virtually just for convenience.
Right, yeah.
And accessibility. So that's the other thing is you can schedule with me at my website, which is qualityvirtualcare.com.
And I'll put that in the comments.
And you just scroll down and find book an appointment, and you find the provider. It's either a 45-minute new client visit or the follow-ups are 20 minutes. And I really do find that 45 minutes is enough time to get started, but then they build on each other, like I said, as we
When
progress.
have you ever had a 45-minute visit with your doctor?
And it's by Zoom, and it's really pretty pleasant, I think. I have a good connection in my house, and it works out well. And people come to me, I'll just tell you the main things they come to me with: fatigue, brain fog, hot flashes, night sweats, vaginal dryness, poor libido, poor sleep, weight gain, all of those things. And 80% of what I do is still bioidentical hormone therapy, including the thyroid. I put the thyroid in there too, because thyroid, for a while when I was in West Ashley, outside of Charleston years ago, I think I could have had just a thyroid practice, honestly. And they knew me as the voodoo thyroid doctor because I would treat even though the labs were normal and the patients would feel better. So I throw the thyroid in with the bioidentical hormone practice. But other things that I do, I would say the top 4 testing: saliva testing or blood for hormones, gut health, which is a poop test, right? Very few of you probably have ever gone to a GI doctor and had anything but a scope. This is you poop in the little French fry tray that you get at the fair and you mail it off. And we learn about digestion, absorption, infection, inflammation, the gut biome. How is it functioning? That's super important. Food sensitivities and micronutrients. So those are the 4 top tests. Now we can do heavy metals and we can do a viral load. It just depends on how many answers we get and how many more we need and when we figure out what's wrong. So quality virtual care, a new client visit for 45 minutes, and then we just sort of move at your pace until we figure out what's going on.
Okay. So we covered that. Where to find you? Let's talk.
2 important resources.
Okay,
So one that I wanted to bring up to you, and I think it's her first book. So those of us who are older remember Chrissy from Three's Company.
Yeah.
And I never thought I'd read a book by Suzanne Summers, but she actually became the advocate, the celebrity advocate. And as she progressed in her career, her books kind of became textbooks. They're not easy reading, but one of her first books is called The Sexy Years. And it is a great intro. It's a funny book. She talks about the 7 dwarves of menopause, and I don't think they're exactly these, but these are the ones I use: itchy, bitchy, weepy, creepy, sleepy, forgetful, and fatigued.
Sounds familiar.
And yes, and so she tells you, she walks you through menopause, and then she explains what a bioidentical hormone is and a compounding pharmacy, and she talks a little bit of politics. But the beginning, I think it's hers, that she dedicates the book to her mother, and she says, if I knew then what I know now, things would have been different.
Yeah.
So that's a fabulous book. You can get it on Amazon for like $19. And a lot of times when my patients are waiting for their saliva kit to be delivered or the results to come back, I have them read that book. Just so the more you know as a patient, the more I can help you as a provider. Right. And then the other book that I think is really good is Estrogen Matters. And it's written by a recent NIH medical oncologist. And there's a chapter in here on cardiovascular disease, on breast cancer, and why it's okay to be treated with hormones after breast cancer. In fact, I think his daughter is a breast cancer survivor and takes BHRT now. It's just a really good book to appreciate the effects of estrogen, and especially if you're in one of those categories. You and I will talk together, and probably with your oncologist. If you want to take hormone therapy, of course, we will make the best decision together for you individually. But education is super important. And so
I think maybe one big takeaway for this group, whoever's watching today or on the replay, is don't discount hormones just because maybe you've had cancer or it's in your family. That's been the big misinformation, let me just put it that way, that has gotten out and needs to be drawn back in, which I don't, it's so hard to draw those kind of conclusions back in once they're out. It's like shaking a feather pill at the back door, and if it opens up, they're all gone and you're not going to ever get them all back. But many women have suffered, but I think going forward we can make better decisions, especially for us in this generation and our daughters and our granddaughters and going forward, so that this whole hormone thing doesn't control our lives, doesn't cause so much pain and so much discomfort and so much, disability.
Yeah.
For so many women,
Right.
Yeah. Well, okay, you can put your questions in the comments. I'm not sure, I mean, we won't, the way Facebook sets it up now, you can't really see the questions, but we'll do this again, and you'll be able to get in touch with Randi through the comments below. I'll put it in the comments, but or you can get in touch with me, or however we can best connect you.
I
to
also
get the
have a
help that you need.
Facebook page, Quality
Okay.
Virtual Care, where I'm trying to post a lot of this summary from the age management, and you're welcome to direct message me there.
So I'll put that'll be in the comments. So thank you for joining.
Thank you.
And
Spread the word.
Yeah, spread the word. There's life beyond menopause. Talk to y'all soon. Good night.